The sound of steel cutting through the air made the alien students turn, their multifaceted eyes widening in disbelief as Marcus Steele pulled out what seemed to be an unremarkable pocket knife with a blade no longer than 3 inches. The survival class had fallen silent except for the bubbling laughter that rose from the throat of Zex, the tallest of the Vexurian students. "Is that a cutting implement or a splinter removal tool?" Zex's voice boomed across the training grounds of the Interstellar Survival Academy. His forearms gestured dramatically as the other alien students joined in the laughter. Marcus didn't respond. He'd been the only human admitted to this prestigious academy, located on a remote planet designated as LV-426, where the galaxy's elite species sent their youth to learn survival skills across various environments. Today's lesson involved skinning a Tarkonian Predator, one of the most dangerous and thick-skinned creatures in the known universe. Professor Gartek, a seasoned Andorian with blue-tinged skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around his bulbous head, approached Marcus with concern evident in his posture. "Mr. Steele, the Tarkonian Predator's hide is notoriously difficult to penetrate. Perhaps you should select a more suitable tool from the armory? The Vexurian skinning blades are particularly effective." He gestured toward the impressive array of ceremonial hunting knives the other students were brandishing, each nearly the length of Marcus's forearm and glowing with built-in heating elements. "I'll stick with what I know, Professor," Marcus replied, running his thumb along the edge of his knife. "My grandfather taught me how to use this. It hasn't failed me yet." Krill, a Centauri student with translucent skin that revealed his pulsing internal organs, leaned toward Marcus. "Human, your primitive tool will not penetrate the outer dermis layer. The Tarkonian has 3 distinct protective layers before you reach anything worth harvesting." Marcus nodded politely, but maintained his grip on the small knife. He'd heard it all before: how humans were physically weaker, technologically behind, and generally considered the galaxy's most surprising spacefaring species. No one expected them to advance beyond their solar system, let alone join the Galactic Coalition. Professor Gartek's assistant wheeled in 6 hover carts, each containing the massive, sedated body of a Tarkonian Predator. The creatures were vaguely reptilian, with iridescent scales that shifted colors even in their unconscious state. Each one measured approximately 12 feet from snout to tail, with powerful limbs ending in 6-inch retractable claws. Students, remember that while these specimens are heavily sedated, they can still respond to pain stimuli. Work quickly and efficiently. You have 30 minutes to completely skin your assigned predator. The one who completes the task with the most intact hide will receive additional credit. Professor Gartek's voice echoed through the room. "Begin now." The alien students rushed to their stations, their specialized blades humming to life. The Vexurians immediately plunged their heated blades into their specimens, while the Centauri used their multiple appendages to hold down their predators as they began cutting. The 2 Krothal students, with their exoskeletons providing extra strength, deployed serrated blades that whirred with mechanical precision. Marcus approached his assigned predator calmly, studying the creature's anatomy. He ran his hand gently over the scales, feeling for the natural seams in the armor-like hide. The small knife seemed ridiculously inadequate next to the technological marvels the other students wielded. "Look at the human," Zex called out, already making his first major incision. "He's petting it. Perhaps he wants to take it home as a companion animal." More laughter erupted, but Marcus remained focused. He found what he was looking for: a small, almost imperceptible gap between scale plates near the creature's shoulder. With precise movements, he inserted the tip of his knife and made a small, deliberate cut. The Tarkonian twitched slightly, but remained sedated. Marcus worked the blade in a circular motion, creating a starting point from which he could begin peeling back the outer layer. His movements were economical, with no wasted energy. 10 minutes in, Zex had made significant progress, having already peeled back large sections of his predator's hide, though several tears were visible where he'd applied too much force. The Centauri students were methodically working their way down their specimens, their translucent bodies glowing with exertion. Marcus continued working silently, his small knife moving with surgical precision. He'd created a perfect line down the predator's spine and was now carefully separating the hide from the underlying tissue, his fingers working in concert with the blade to maintain tension at exactly the right angle. Halfway point, Professor Gartek announced, moving between stations to observe the students' techniques. He paused at Marcus's station, his 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Interesting approach, Mr. Steele," he commented, noting how Marcus had created almost no waste and maintained the integrity of the hide perfectly. Most unconventional, but effective. Krill glanced over, his transparent face showing confusion as he noticed Marcus's progress. The human had somehow managed to separate nearly half the hide already, working with a speed and precision that seemed impossible given his rudimentary tool. "How are you doing that?" Krill asked, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier derision. "It's not about the tool," Marcus replied without looking up, his hands never stopping their methodical work. "It's about understanding the anatomy. Every creature has natural seams, places where the tissues connect. Find those, and you don't need to cut through, you just need to separate." 20 minutes in, Zex was struggling. His aggressive approach had created several large tears in the hide, and he was now trying to work more carefully to avoid further damage. The Crothall students were efficient but mechanical, treating the exercise as a technical problem rather than an art. Marcus's hands moved with increasing speed as he found his rhythm. The small knife danced along the natural contours of the predator's body, separating rather than cutting. He used the flat of the blade to create space between layers, then the edge to precisely sever the connecting tissues. 5 minutes remaining. Professor Gartek called out. Zex looked over at Marcus's station and froze in disbelief. The human had already detached most of the hide and was now carefully working on the final section around the tail. The hide lay flat and perfect, without a single tear or nick. "Impossible," Zex muttered, his 4 arms working frantically to complete his own specimen. With 3 minutes to spare, Marcus made his final cut, completely freeing the hide from the predator. With careful movements, he laid it out flat on the adjacent table, the iridescent scales still perfectly intact and gleaming under the laboratory lights. Professor Gartek approached, his expression unreadable as he examined Marcus's work. "Mr. Steele has completed the task," he announced, causing the other students to look up from their own work. "And I must say, this is the cleanest extraction I have ever witnessed in my 40 years of teaching." Marcus cleaned his small knife on a cloth and folded it closed, sliding it back into his pocket. The alien students gathered around his station, their earlier mockery replaced by stunned silence. "How did you do this with that primitive tool?" Zex finally asked, his voice lacking its usual condescension. "My grandfather was a master leatherworker back on Earth," Marcus explained. "He taught me that the most important skill isn't having the fanciest tools, it's understanding what you're working with. Every creature, whether from Earth or the furthest reaches of the galaxy, follows certain biological principles. Find the natural seams, work with the tissue instead of against it, and you can accomplish more with less." Professor Gartek nodded appreciatively. "A valuable lesson for all of you. Technology and sophisticated tools have their place, but they are no substitute for skill and knowledge." He turned to address the class. "Mr. Steele will receive full credit for today's exercise. The rest of you, you have 2 minutes to complete your work." The alien students rushed back to their stations, many of them casting thoughtful glances at Marcus's small knife. Later that evening, Marcus sat alone in the Academy's dining hall, his meal tray before him. He was used to the isolation. Being the only human at the Academy meant he often ate alone while the various alien species clustered together. He was surprised when Krill approached his table, the Centauri's transparent body pulsing with nervous energy. "May I join you?" Krill asked, his voice uncertain. "Of course," Marcus replied, gesturing to the empty seat across from him. Krill sat down, placing his tray of nutrient gel, the standard diet for his species, on the table. "I want to apologize for underestimating you earlier. It was wrong of me to judge your abilities based on your tool." Marcus nodded. "No offense taken. I'm used to it. Would you?" Krill's translucent face shifted colors slightly, indicating embarrassment in his species. "Would you be willing to teach me your technique? I have always relied on our traditional methods, but what you demonstrated today was clearly superior." Before Marcus could respond, Zex approached the table, his imposing height casting a shadow over them. The Vexurian looked uncomfortable, his forearms fidgeting at his sides. "Human Marcus," he corrected himself. "I also wish to learn your method. Our instructors on Vexuria teach us to use force and advanced technology, but your approach was elegant." Marcus felt a smile forming on his face. "I'd be happy to show both of you. And please call me Marcus." Over the next few days, word spread throughout the academy about the human with a small knife who had outperformed everyone in the skinning exercise. Students from various species began approaching Marcus, asking for demonstrations and explanations of his techniques. Professor Gartek observed this development with interest. He had advocated for including humans in the academy despite opposition from several council members who considered the species too primitive for advanced survival training. Now, Marcus was proving his point better than any argument could have. 2 weeks later, the Academy announced a special wilderness survival exercise on Targus 4, a jungle planet known for its hostile environment and dangerous predators. Students would be dropped in teams of 4 and would need to survive for 5 days, gathering food and crafting shelter while avoiding the planet's many hazards. Marcus found himself teamed with Krill, Zex, and a draconid named Vexra, a reptilian female with emerald scales and remarkable agility. As they prepared their equipment, Marcus noticed the others had reduced the size and complexity of their gear, inspired by his minimalist approach. "You have influenced us, Marcus," Vexra commented, her forked tongue flicking out briefly as she spoke. "Before, I would have brought my full battle harness. Now I see the value in traveling light." "Just make sure you bring what you need," Marcus cautioned. "Different species have different requirements. What works for me might not work for you." The dropship delivered them to a clearing in Targus Ivy's dense jungle. Immediately, the humid air enveloped them, filled with the sounds of unknown creatures and the sweet, slightly rotting smell of abundant vegetation. "We should establish a base camp near a water source," Marcus suggested, surveying their surroundings. "From there, we can explore and gather resources." The team moved through the jungle, with Vexra scouting ahead, her natural camouflage allowing her to blend with the vegetation. They found a small stream after an hour of careful navigation through the dense undergrowth. "This looks suitable," Zex said, his forearms already gathering materials for shelter. "The water appears clean, and the canopy provides natural cover." As they set up camp, a piercing scream echoed through the jungle, causing all of them to freeze. The sound was followed by a deep, resonating growl that seemed to vibrate the very air around them. "Targus Stalker," Krill whispered, his transparent body paling slightly. "Apex predator of this region. Extremely dangerous." Marcus reached for his pack, extracting his small knife. The alien students exchanged glances, but said nothing about his choice of weapon. They had learned their lesson. "We should avoid engaging if possible," Marcus said quietly. "But we should also be prepared in case it finds us." The team finished setting up their camp with increased urgency, constructing a simple but effective shelter on a raised platform between 2 massive trees. As night fell, the jungle's sounds intensified, a symphony of unknown creatures hunting and being hunted in the darkness. They took turns keeping watch, with Vexra taking the first shift due to her superior night vision. Marcus was awakened for his watch by Krill's gentle nudge. "All quiet so far," Krill reported, though the stalker called out twice more, each time closer than before. Marcus nodded and took his position at the edge of the platform, scanning the darkness below. The jungle's canopy blocked most of the starlight, creating an almost complete darkness that was only occasionally broken by bioluminescent plants and insects. Halfway through his watch, Marcus noticed a change in the jungle soundscape. The constant background noise of small creatures had suddenly ceased, leaving an unnatural silence. He reached for his knife, the familiar weight of it in his hand providing comfort. A massive shape moved through the undergrowth below their platform, barely visible in the darkness. The Targa stalker was even larger than Marcus had expected, easily 20 feet long, with a low-slung body supported by 6 muscular limbs. Its head was dominated by a wide mouth filled with rows of serrated teeth, and multiple eyes arranged around its skull gave it nearly 360-degree vision. Marcus remained perfectly still, knowing that movement would attract its attention more quickly than his scent. The creature paused directly beneath their platform, its head swiveling as it tested the air. Then it looked up, multiple eyes fixing directly on Marcus. The stalker lunged upward with shocking speed, one clawed limb raking the edge of the platform where Marcus sat. He rolled backward just in time, calling out to wake the others as he did so. "Stalker, it's found us." The team was instantly alert, weapons drawn as the massive predator circled below their shelter, looking for a way to reach them. It made another leap, this time managing to grab the edge of the platform with 2 of its limbs. Zex rushed forward, his 4 arms wielding energy weapons that fired concentrated bursts at the creature. The shots singed its armored hide, but seemed to do little actual damage, instead enraging it further. Vexra moved with incredible speed, her natural agility allowing her to leap over the creature's reaching limbs. She plunged a vibrating blade into one of its eyes, causing it to roar in pain and momentarily retreat. "Its hide is too thick for our weapons," Krill called out, his own energy staff having minimal effect on the predator. The stalker gathered itself for another attack, this time launching its full weight at the platform. The structure groaned and tilted dangerously as one of the supporting vines snapped. Marcus knew they couldn't win this fight with conventional tactics. The creature was too large, too powerful, and too well-armored. But every creature had weaknesses, natural seams in its defenses. "Distract it," he called to the others. "Keep it occupied." While his teammates fired energy weapons and made threatening displays to hold the stalker's attention, Marcus studied its movements, looking for patterns and vulnerabilities. He noticed that when it reared up to attack, a section of softer tissue was exposed at the junction between its neck and shoulder, a natural gap in its armored plates. The platform lurched again as another support gave way. They were running out of time. "Zex, when I give the signal, hit it with everything you've got, right where I point," Marcus called out, moving to the edge of the damaged platform. "What are you planning, human?" Zex asked, but readied his weapons. "Something very stupid," Marcus admitted. Then, to everyone's horror, he leaped from the platform, landing directly on the stalker's back. The creature bucked and twisted, trying to dislodge the unexpected passenger. Marcus clung desperately to the rough, armored scales, using the minimal handholds to work his way toward the creature's neck. "Now," he shouted, pointing to the vulnerable spot he'd identified. Zex fired all 4 of his weapons simultaneously, the energy blast striking precisely where Marcus had indicated. The stalker roared in pain, momentarily stunned by the attack. In that instant of distraction, Marcus plunged his small knife into the exposed gap, driving it deep into the creature's flesh with all his strength. The stalker convulsed violently, throwing Marcus from its back. He hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the wind from his lungs. The massive predator staggered, blood pouring from the wound in its neck. It made one final lunge toward Marcus, who lay vulnerable on the ground, unable to move. Before it could reach him, Vexra dropped from above, landing on its head and driving her blade into another of its eyes. The stalker collapsed mere feet from Marcus, its massive body twitching in its death throes before finally growing still. Krill and Zex quickly descended from what remained of their platform, rushing to where Marcus lay. "Are you injured?" Krill asked, his transparent body pulsing with concern. Marcus sat up slowly, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Nothing serious, I think. Maybe some bruised ribs." Zex stared at the fallen predator, then at Marcus's small knife, still embedded in the creature's neck. "You found its weakness with that tiny blade."
How?
"Same principle as the skinning exercise," Marcus explained, getting to his feet with Krill's assistance. "Everything has natural seams, points of vulnerability. You just have to know where to look." Vexra approached, wiping the stalker's blood from her scales. "The instructors said that Targa stalkers are nearly impossible to kill. Yet you did it with a pocket knife." Marcus shrugged, then winced at the pain the movement caused. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us, working together." "But it was your knowledge that made the difference," Zex insisted. "Our advanced weapons were useless against its armor." As dawn broke over the jungle, the team assessed their situation. Their shelter was damaged beyond repair, but they had gained something valuable: the body of a Targa stalker, which contained meat, useful bones, and a hide that could be fashioned into nearly impenetrable armor. "I suppose we should harvest what we can," Krill suggested. "The meat will sustain us, and the hide will provide protection." Marcus nodded, retrieving his knife from the creature's neck. "And I know just how to do it efficiently." The next 3 days passed in relative calm. The team constructed a new shelter, using parts of the stalker's skeleton for support. They fashioned crude armor from its hide, which proved invaluable against the jungle's many thorns and smaller predators. Marcus taught the others his skinning and processing techniques, which they adapted to their own physiologies and strengths. On the 5th day, as they prepared for extraction, Professor Gartek himself arrived in a small shuttle, landing in a clearing near their camp. "I received reports of a Targa stalker kill in this region," he explained, his 6 eyes widening as he surveyed their camp and the various stalker parts they had put to use. "I had to see for myself." In the Academy's 100-year history, no student team has ever successfully taken down a stalker. "It was Marcus," Vexra said immediately. "His small knife found the weakness that our advanced weapons could not penetrate." Professor Gartek turned to Marcus with newfound respect. "Mr. Steele, it seems you continue to teach us all valuable lessons about the relationship between technology and skill." "I just applied what I was taught," Marcus replied modestly. "My grandfather always said that understanding is more important than equipment." "A wise man, your grandfather," Professor Gartek nodded. "I believe your team has more than demonstrated your survival capabilities. Consider this exercise completed with highest honors." As they boarded the shuttle, Marcus noticed a change in how the others regarded him. Gone was the condescension, the subtle dismissal of human capabilities. In its place was something new: respect, perhaps even admiration. Back at the Academy, word of their encounter with the Targa stalker spread quickly. Students who had once mocked Marcus's small knife now approached him for advice, eager to learn his techniques. In the weeks that followed, Marcus found himself the center of an unlikely cultural exchange. He taught alien students about human approaches to survival and crafting, while they shared their species' unique knowledge and perspectives with him. Professor Gartek established a new course at the Academy: Minimalist Survival Techniques with Marcus as a teaching assistant. The class quickly became one of the most popular at the Academy, with students from all species eager to learn how to accomplish more with less. 3 months after the Targus IV expedition, Marcus was summoned to Professor Gartek's office. He found the professor examining a display case containing the small knife that had become somewhat famous throughout the academy. "Ah, Mr. Steele," Professor Gartek greeted him. "I wanted to inform you personally before the announcement is made. The Interstellar Survival Academy is establishing an exchange program with Earth's educational institutions. We believe there is much our species can learn from each other." Marcus was stunned. "That's incredible news, Professor. It was your demonstration of human ingenuity that convinced the Council," Gartek continued. "You showed us that technological advancement is not the only measure of a species' capabilities. Sometimes understanding and skill can accomplish what the most advanced tools cannot." As Marcus left the professor's office, he passed a group of first-year students in the corridor. Among them was a young Vexurian who held up a small, Earth-made pocket knife similar to Marcus's own. "Look what I got," the student was saying excitedly to his companions. "The human design is so simple, but so effective." Marcus couldn't help but smile. His grandfather would have been proud not just of Marcus's achievements, but of how he had shared his knowledge with others. The old man had always said that the true value of a skill was in passing it on. In the Academy's main hall, Marcus found Krill, Zex, and Vexra waiting for him. They had become his closest friends since their shared experience on Targus 4. "We heard about the exchange program," Krill said, his transparent face glowing with excitement. "Will you be returning to Earth as part of it?" "Eventually," Marcus replied. "But not yet. I still have a lot to learn here, and it seems some things to teach as well." Zex laughed, a sound that had once seemed mocking but now carried genuine warmth. Who would have thought that a human with a tiny knife would change the way the galaxy's elite survival academy approaches its teaching? "It's not about the knife," Marcus, Krill, and Vexra all said in unison, completing what had become something of a mantra among them. They all laughed, and as they walked together toward the dining hall, Marcus reflected on how far they had all come. The aliens had learned to respect human ingenuity and practical knowledge, while he had gained insights into their cultures and technologies that few humans had ever experienced. And it had all started with a small knife and the mockery of alien students who couldn't imagine how effective such a simple tool could be in the right hands. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the most important lessons came from the most unexpected sources. That evening, as students from a dozen different species gathered in the Academy's main hall for dinner, the barriers that had once separated them seemed less significant. Humans might be newcomers to the galactic community, physically weaker and technologically less advanced than many other species, but they brought with them perspectives and approaches that even the oldest spacefaring races found valuable. And Marcus Steele, once mocked for his small knife, had become a symbol of what humans could offer to the wider universe, not advanced technology or overwhelming physical strength, but adaptability, ingenuity, and the wisdom to understand that the most elaborate tool was worthless without the knowledge of how to use it properly. As he sat among his alien friends, Marcus took out his grandfather's knife and turned it over in his hands, remembering the old man's patient lessons. He wondered what his grandfather would think if he could see his grandson now, teaching alien students the skills he had passed down. Marcus liked to think he would be proud not because Marcus had proven humans were somehow better, but because he had shown that knowledge shared was knowledge multiplied. "To understanding," Marcus said, raising his cup in a toast. "To understanding," his friends echoed, their diverse voices joining in harmony. And in that moment, the small knife that had once been an object of ridicule became a symbol of something much greater: the bridge between worlds and species, built not on assumptions of superiority, but on the sharing of knowledge and mutual respect.